bringing Rome to its knees more and more, Hannibal may have begun to see Saguntum as an opportunity. Could this controversial alliance be just what devilish little Hannibal needed to kickstart a second war with Rome and restore Carthaginian dominance? It's even possible that Rome were also using Saguntum to goad Hannibal into a fight, so they could go and kick him out of Spain.
That's what I think.
And as the two giants began gearing up for round two, the poor people of Saguntum had no idea that they were about to be crushed in the collision. Hey! Your alliance with Saguntum is an insult, and we won't stand for it. They're our friends, Hannibal, and if you lay a finger on them, it'll be an act of war. Yeah, Hannibal, back the hell off. War, eh? I was thinking I might just besiege their city and massacre their people. I hope you do, Hannibal. Find out what happens. Yeah, we hope you do, Hannibal. Wait, what? Maybe I will. Go ahead. Kill them all. Okay then. Fine. Okay, guess I'll do just that. Consul? We look forward to it. Consul? You're gonna protect us though, right, Consul? Consul! Oh no! To top it all off, when the Saguntine people made the genius decision of raiding into Carthaginian territory, enough was enough. In an action that was guaranteed to provoke the Romans into war, Hannibal besieged the city. The siege of Saguntum lasted 8 cruel months before Hannibal broke through the city defense.
Isn't that crazy when you think about how ancient and medieval sieges, how long they last? Because whenever we see them in movies, it doesn't look like that. We will see the end of sieges normally. And in video games, a siege is like a couple of turns, maybe 7 turns if they're well fortified, I guess, in Civilization. But in general, we don't really think that much that it's going to take months, sometimes years. Can you imagine that? Like you go about with your life knowing that you're under siege. From the other perspective, you are the soldiers and you're stationed there and it just keeps on going and going. You're just waiting and doing your things. Occasionally maybe something happens, but in general, it's crazy. Sieges are some of the most mind-blowing, in my opinion, tactical operations that you can study once you look into the nitty-gritty details, whatever.
Fences and turned Saguntum into a killing field.
Yep.
It was a
Bloodbath.
massacre.
Yeah.
What the hell? Tell me I didn't just catch you massacring our friends, the Sugantes. Well, Consul, if you like the Sugantes so much, perhaps you should sug on these nuts. Hearing word of the attack on Saguntum, Rome was understandably in an uproar, and all eyes were now fixated on what would happen next, as Rome sent a delegation to Carthage, led by one of the most highly esteemed Roman senators, Fabius Maximus. He demanded an answer for Hannibal's sins. All right, listen up, scum. You've got a rogue general in Spain attacking a Roman ally. What are we supposed to do about it? Well, there shouldn't have even been a Roman ally in Spain. You're the aggressor here. Hand Hannibal over to us as a criminal so we can punish him severely. No, yes, no.
And they would have done a triumphant, probably taken him, parade him around Rome, then behead him in front. That's what they would have done.
No, look. I hold in the folds of my toga both peace and war. Which one should I let drop? Whichever one you want. Then
and he really said this.
I choose. The Second Punic War had begun.
Fabius. That was a fantastic explanation of the preamble to the war. That was really good. Oversimplify, I gotta give it to you. You're good.
Pack it up, boys. We've got them.
Applause.
We already destroyed these clowns once, and we were the underdogs. Now, we're the overdogs? Hot dogs. Exactly.
Of course, the Romans wouldn't consider themselves the underdogs, but it's fine.
It's gonna be easy. Here's the plan. Consul Longus, you take your army and sail straight for Carthage.
Yeah, good luck
Burn
with
that
that
city to the ground. And Consul Scipio, you just head on over to Iberia and make sure this Hannibal guy doesn't do anything crazy. I mean, what's he gonna do? Cross the Alps?
Laughter. It was unthinkable, though, from the Romans' perspective. They did not think that was going to happen.
We're going to what? cross the Alps. We're going to... What? I just told you. Hannibal will freeze to death. Trust me, Jerome. The Romans are expecting us to fight the
typical Carthaginian name. Jerome, you know, all people of Levantine origin, absolutely. Jerome is...
way we did last time. Passively.
Right.
Taking no initiative. They think it's gonna be easy. So this time, we have to be aggressive. We have to go on the attack. It sickens me to say this, but this time, we have to be a little more Roman. You mean we're gonna take poops and baths together? But I'm insecure about my hairy legs. No, I'm saying this time, we're gonna take the fight to them. Think about it. Rome thinks they're simply going to invade us and win the war. So when they suddenly find themselves being invaded from the north, they'll freak out. Like Tony's mother, when the buffet runs out of shrimp. Hey! I got it.
What is it with Tony?
To admit, it's actually kind of genius. And my hairy legs will insulate me from the cold. That's the spirit. Hannibal, you have my sword, and my spear, and my legs. Ugh. Hannibal's plan, a daring alpine trek to surprise the Romans, was a bold but risky strategy. If it paid off, he could catch the Romans with their pants down, but he could also end up losing a ton of men and supplies.
I mean, he did.
In the hostile mountain conditions. Nevertheless, in 218 BC, with a fire in his eyes and some vengeance in his belly, Hannibal brought his force of almost 100,000 men across the Ebro River.
That is an insane amount of... goodness gracious.
Spent months on the road, trekking through the cold, hostile mountain conditions. And when they finally reached the other side, they said, "Hooray! We did it! We crossed the Alps." No, those were the Pyrenees. Those are the Alps.
Oh, no. Yeah, I mean, sure.
After crossing the Pyrenees, the army then had to pass through southern Gaul, a vast territory filled with tribespeople, many of whom were hostile to Hannibal's presence. His journey to the Alps was an ordeal in itself, as he was forced to fight his way through and incurred pretty hefty losses before even reaching the mountains. His plan was almost stopped in its tracks entirely, as the Roman consul Scipio, on his way to Iberia, discovered Hannibal was right on his doorstep. Suddenly,
Scipio's HQ.
Hannibal's journey became a race, as he rushed to get his massive army across the vast Rhone River before the Romans could intercept him. The crossing was chaotic, with the panicking elephants causing several men to drown. And the first combat of the war occurred when small scouting parties from each side encountered one another. When Scipio finally caught up to Hannibal's position, what he found was an empty Carthaginian camp. Hannibal.
As I always say, usually when I do these reactive videos, I interrupt and talk a lot more. Now, I feel like I'm still being very transformative here, and I'm going to add a lot of stuff even later, and I've been adding quite a bit. But still, the reason why, with oversimplified specifically, I tend to speak a little less than my usual and interrupt less is because I'm really invested in this. I am enjoying it very much. So at least it speaks to the quality. I mean, look at the helmets, the italic helmets here. It's great.
Had slipped through his fingers. The Roman consul
Although then again, this one by the Romans, this type of armor would have been called Gallica most likely.